Today's guest is Shauna Weatherly. She is the president and founder of Federal Subcontract Solutions, LLC. And Shauna is retired from federal service with almost 36 years, congratulations, 36 years of experience across military and civilian agencies. And with all the change in government today, Shauna has shared numerous posts to help both industry and government understand both the actions that are happening nowadays, as well as the impacts and what they mean for people. And uh, I'm so grateful myself, and others that I know are very much following you as you do that. So thank you so much for that service to everybody in this interesting times.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So for those who haven't heard your story, let's roll the clock back and talk about how, as you're coming out of high school, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Well, I loved art and music, and that's probably the furthest thing from what I do now. But I really thought I was going to do something in graphic design or art. That's really where my focus was in middle school, high school. I took every art class I could. I played a musical instrument and several. And that's really where I thought I was going to head. I thought I was going to do something in the art world, but I didn't have a plan except that my boyfriend, soon to be husband, was leaving to be a military member. And so we were young and in love. And so I followed him to Germany, actually. So that's what I did right out of high school is I had a daughter and we went off to Germany. So
Oh, I love
yeah.
that. I love that.
Young mom.
Yeah, well, and that's important as well, right? That's very important. As a military person myself and my wife, I married her, and we did the same thing. We went right away into babies and travel.
Yep.
So then, at what point did you decide to start some sort of career?
Well, we were overseas and I thought, I need to do something to get out of the house. I need to meet people. We were enlisted couple. My husband was enlisted, so we did not live on base. We needed I needed an avenue when he was out on deployment to have friends and connections and people who could make me feel more familiar to home. I mean, I'd never flown on an airplane before I went to Germany, so that tells you how green I was. And that's what I did is people started talking about where to go and where you could sign up for a government job or a job on base. And so I started doing that and just kind of reaching out and taking little jobs here and there through the commissary or the PX or something until my first government job landed for me.
And how did that come about?
Pestering the civilian personnel office. There back then we didn't have USA Jobs. You came in with a paper application, and I would go there and I would sit during the day and I would look through the registers once a week and I would file applications for it, and they got to know me, and I actually landed my first job in that office helping people who were turning in applications. So that's how I got the first job.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and it tells you the benefit of somebody. They always say the hardest part is getting in the interview. Once you have the interview, you have an opportunity to make an impression, and you made an impression just by sitting there and doing what you were doing.
Yeah, and talking with them about what I needed, what I was looking for, why I was looking. I wanted to start a career, and I knew we were going to be overseas for a couple of years. That was the logical place to do it.
Wow. So then how did you kind of grow that civilian career?
Well, I started in personnel, so I moved up a little bit there and was able to move over while I was in Germany into more of a stationing manpower position, which was nice. I learned all about, how we rotate people around the world and where they sit and why, and why we have a PX in this place and not in this place and things like that. And I was lucky enough that I had a really great group of people there who were very supportive and helped me as I was transitioning over to the United States, helped me figure out who to write letters to, how to reach out to offices that may have openings overseas where we were back in the United States where we were heading to, and really supported me by providing recommendations and things like that, which was extremely helpful. So, we ended up coming back to the United States, and I was lucky that one of those letters landed actually at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Chicago. So that was where my next step was, and I kind of grew my career there. I took the first job in the room. It was a secretary position, and but I worked for the chief of engineering division, and that was a great connection because I saw everybody coming in and out of his office, and I got to meet those people, make an impression, which led to other jobs while I was there. And then eventually I had the opportunity to apply for an internship, which was the fast track. The 7-9-11
Oh
position,
yeah.
the golden ticket, I called it at the time. So, yeah, that I was really fortunate. It happened to be an acquisition, and then the acquisition career just kind of took off from there.
Oh wow, yeah. It's so funny because I don't hear a lot about 7-9-11 ladders anymore, but they were fantastic
Yeah.
opportunities for people to get in and then accelerate their career.
Yeah, and for me it was really important because by then I had gotten divorced and I was a single mom with two kids and in a town I didn't know and wasn't sure how, my family was in California, I was in Chicago, and I didn't know, how I was going to survive,
Mm.
honestly. And it really gave me kind of the boost in my career, and it gave me the lift that I needed, that it moved me back to my family. Actually I got the position near them, and so I was able to do that, and then build a career from there, that where I could support my kids and have a contribution and learn all of that. And this is before I ever went back to college. I actually didn't go to college before any of this, so that was kind of the interesting pieces. I'm kind of that late student that did this during my career as well. So.
And so was the rest of your government career then within the acquisition realm?
Pretty much, yeah. When I got to GSA at about year 25, I guess it was my last 10 years, I did do a stint for about 6 years in acquisition project management. So I did move into project management for about 6 years. But the rest was in acquisition and just moving my way up, moving my way around, taking the contracts that nobody else wanted, the problems that nobody else wanted to deal with, and volunteering to kind of take those on and move around a little bit. I did deploy to Afghanistan, and did that, and moved my way up, and was fortunate in that, and landed in policy at the very end. So I got to see kind of the whole big picture of it all, everything I'd lived through up until that time, at my last 15 months of my career, which was really eye-opening.
So then what was that transition like, right? Not everybody makes that transition, or some people just fully retire. It sounds like that's not the case because I know you run your own company now. So what was that transition like coming out of government?
Well, it was difficult at first. It really was. And it felt like a full stop after years of going and going and going. And I did one thing that I would recommend people do, is I went on a vacation after I had a break. And I took a month-long vacation. Lucky enough, we have relatives in Australia, and we went to Australia, and we just completely disconnected and had a fun time. And then while I was there, I was kind of trying to think about, how do I want to shape what I want to do? What did I enjoy? What didn't I enjoy? What was I looking forward to if I go back to work? And what would be the pain points I didn't want to deal with anymore? And I just tried to build something kind of around the things that I loved while I was working in acquisition.
All right. And so what was that? What did you come up with?
Well, when I was a contracting officer, I loved it when businesses would come in and talk to me about learning how to get on to the federal marketplace. I loved it when they were trying to learn, and I loved teaching my own staff. We would have mini classes, I would call them. Everybody would take a turn at a topic, and we would all just teach each other because we had limited training money. And I loved that. I loved it, and I eventually became an instructor and did some things more formally through my career. But I really wanted to help the small businesses because I thought they needed some help. And I thought that was always fun, meeting new people, listening to what they're doing, watching them get energized by you sharing, things with them, and helping them kind of flick on the light switch, to understand the processes. So that's what I decided to do, is that I needed to build a focus around helping small businesses understand the marketplace, because too many came in and didn't understand it. And sometimes it was too late. They'd already sunk a lot of money into it, or a lot of effort and time. And I didn't want to see people doing that if they didn't need to.
And now, is that the company you are currently running now, or was that something different?
Yeah, it's my current company, Federal Subcontract Solutions. Yeah.
And so how's that going?
Well, it's going pretty good. I mean, I started out kind of small. I actually started before my career ended just with one client when I didn't have a warrant anymore and didn't have any contracting authority anymore. Chose not to after I'd gone into project management and things. But it was a company that I knew from years and years ago, and happened to know my husband, who is also a retired acquisition person, by the way. So we have some interesting conversations. But it was pretty easy. I just started doing some fractional stuff for them where it was like, hey, a contracting officer sent us a letter. We don't know how to respond. Can you help us figure out what they're saying to us and what would
Mm.
be the best response back? What do we need to know that we don't know? And just kind of started doing that kind of tutoring and mentoring and coaching and support. And that's basically what I've built my business around. I have a small base of clients that I do that for, and then I do training and speaking and what you see on LinkedIn, just sharing information and my website.
I love that. I'm a big fan of small businesses. I worked for small businesses before I came into government, and I've been lucky to do some procurements and make them small business set-asides. You're right. There's so much that well, a small business owner is just trying to stay above water, right? They're treading, they're trying
Right,
to make revenue enough to pay the people that they're themselves plus anybody else they need to execute on whatever they're trying to win work. They're trying to, but they don't, you're right, they don't have a heavy background in what it means to read a contract and what those words mean and what
right,
far part whatever means and how it impacts what they're trying to accomplish as they try to grow their business. I love
right.
that you can do that for them.
Yeah, and I saw that being an advantage because the large businesses have, they can afford people on staff to pay and do that stuff. The small businesses can't. It's that owner that is, wearing all those different hats. And I just thought, here's a chance to be a resource for an owner, and they don't have to have me on staff full time. They can just reach out when they need me, and I'm happy to do it that way because I am also still retired. So I would like to be retired a little bit too. So although most days it doesn't feel like it. That's the other part of being a business owner.
Right, right. Oh, that's awesome. So when you look back over your career, Shauna, what's something you go, man, I wish it wasn't done that way. There's got to be a better way and make it more efficient. And I'll caveat that to say whatever it is you're thinking, you and I aren't going to necessarily come up with what that efficiency gain could be.
Right.
Other people who are in that space can hopefully take our idea and run with it and make some change. But what's something when you look back, you go, man, that could be done better.
Well, there's a couple different things. I mean, just for as an employee, myself, I really think I wish there was a more formal mentorship program in government, just in general for up and coming leaders. I mean, I went through emerging leader programs and things like that, but there was never really a permanent connection with a leader that I could, you know, bounce things off of. I had a lot of trial and error in my own leadership and I would have really have liked to have had a mentor that was more formal in the leadership role that I could have done that with, as their career moved up and as my career moved up. That would have been great. But there were minimal opportunities for that, nothing formal. I think, from just what I do now, looking back on what, could be better, I really think that outreach to the small business community is necessary and just seeing some of the things we've seen lately with some of positions being cut and things like that, I fear that outreach is going to go away and it was always as robust as it could be with resources, but I really think there needs to be like a mentorship program from government built out to contractors. We have Apex, we have a few of those now, but I would like to see something that's a little more concrete or a government industry collaboration of some sort that could help.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I know when a company, a small company gets their, gets to GSA, gets their, register or whatever, like SAM registry. I don't think it's
Yeah.
called SAM anymore. I think they've
Yeah,
changed
it
the name.
is still Sam.
Oh, okay.
That's where I
Uh,
worked.
and but there's no onboarding like to tell you now what, right?
Right.
That's a very valid point that then they're at that point they're still trying to like if they don't have another company mentor, they don't really know what to do.
Right. And that's a lot of what I hear is I have a lot of, people that get out of the military, maybe they're a vet, they want to start a business, use the skills they've learned, or they're, in the commercial sector, they're trying to pivot to private or federal, excuse me, and they're, they know the step, register in SAM, get a certification, but they don't know where else to look for opportunities. Yeah, you can sign up for tools and you can do all these things, but what do you do with it when you get it?
Yeah.
And how do you find entry points, and how do you diversify those entry points so that you can keep your business viable? That's a lot of what I try to help people figure out for themselves through coaching. I don't have the silver bullet either, but I try to help people, think through their situations and figure out their risk tolerance and do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've known many small business owners who even got on a vehicle. They managed to somehow get on a vehicle and then they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They thought the vehicle was something, but it's not, right? It's only like step one to
Yes.
getting work. And so that I think that's a very valid point that um, there's not a lot of education in that space.
Yeah, I see that a lot too with clients. They have the GSA schedule, for example, but they don't know how to utilize it. And that's tough. It's tough because you spend a lot of money to get those things, and that's not a small investment and by any means. So it's real important to kind of help these businesses figure that out and figure out the best way to do it, either with themselves or teams. I want to see businesses succeed because that's, who is the catalyst to economic growth in our
Right.
country, and that's important to me. And especially, I try to, work with all businesses, but particularly, underrepresented groups, women, hub zones, veterans, those types of groups, because they are just, with my military background, being a woman-owned business myself, living in some of the areas where there are underrepresented communities. I just feel it's important. It's just a part of who I feel like I've been and lived through myself. So important to support those businesses.
Absolutely. So Shauna, what's coming up for you here in next bit of time?
Well, I'm working on a few things. About ready to relaunch my website to be a little more user friendly, a little more uh, I guess modern. I'm excited to say my website has been my own creation, so I'm really excited that I'm bringing on some people who are professionals to help me with that, and learning to let go of some of those things myself as a business owner, which is really important. And I'm working on a micro training platform for small businesses to help them get bite-sized answers to things that are just anything from basic to advanced, and let them have a resource library that way as well, that they can get answers.
Oh, I like that idea because then they can get it even if you're not specifically available.
Right.
Right. Sometimes those things are very timely, right? I have to respond to a letter within a certain period of time, and
Yes.
that's very stressful, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hoping to help with that a little bit. I can't be everywhere, but this gives people that answer.
I love it. I love it. Well, I can't wait to see
Thanks.
it. I can't wait to see how that goes for you, and I'm very excited
Thanks.
for what you're doing and how you help businesses, which also helps government, frankly, helps us complete our missions when companies come in well informed. And
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you so much, Shauna. It's been a lovely conversation getting to hear your story and understand a bit about your motivations and what's coming up for you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how that goes for you.
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate it.